Well, I think I'm finally done the summer months travel that has consumed my life the last little while, and why you haven't seen much of me on here. But today's a video that I've wanted to make for a bit, one of a series, because there's a lot of things that I've realized have made my production life just so much easier in the last little bit. And so today I'm just going to give you 7 of those things that I think, well, they made my life better. So one of the first things that I have purchased this year that has made my production life a lot easier is the Atomos Ninja 5 firmware update. And if you've owned that monitor for any period of time, you're gonna know that 1,000 nits of brightness is not enough to see proper exposure, and a lot of times it's even hard to just see focus. So for me to get proper exposure, it's been really challenging. So the firmware update that came out earlier this year, maybe late last year, was one that gave you some new codecs, but it also gave you RE false color. It also gave you EL zone exposure, which basically gives you the most accurate representation of your exposure values and levels wherever you're shooting. So for me, when I'm shooting outdoor documentary and sports, focus I'm usually okay with, but again, making sure I have that exposure so that either the football players in the shadows of the stadium are exposed, as well as getting most of my highlights exposed as well, to get the most professional looking look. Everyone always says you want to expose for the highlights, but you sometimes have to find that middle area, and that is the most exciting thing about that firmware update. And that was around $200, so I was able to upgrade my monitor without having to spend $3,500 on a small HD Ultra 7. Now, for years, filmmakers have been talking about the Black Pro Mist. The original maker was from Tiffin, I believe, and now many other companies like Peter McKinnon's Variable ND has a mist built in. You've got Nisi filters, which are the ones that I have, as well as other brands will make this Black Pro Mist, which gives you a halation around your highlights, makes your lights glow a little bit, and again, takes that edge off of your mirrorless cameras or your cinema cameras that are all digital these days. We're all trying to go back to the days of film and emulate that look a little bit more. And those filters get you there a little bit, but what it also does is you're also losing your saturation, your blacks, and your contrast in a lot of those images. And that's something that I've been trying to avoid doing. I want to keep my color there, but I just want to take that digital edge off and still get a little bit of that halation. Halation, I struggle with that word. The filter that I've found that's landed me in that middle ground is still from Tiffin, but it's the Glimmer Glass. So the Glimmer Glass still gives you a bit of that halation, but it doesn't make you lose that contrast and that color and the pop that you might lose with the Black Pro Mist. So that's this guy right here, and right now I'm actually filming with the Black Pro Mist 1/8, and we're gonna flip over to the Glimmer Glass 1/4, which I actually find has a very subtle, nice, pleasing look that I've leaned heavily into this year. Okay, now we've switched over to the 1/4 Glimmer Glass. The 1/4 I find is just a nice subtle effect. You can get different strengths of this filter, just like the Black Pro Mist. As soon as you jump up to the one-stop strength, it starts to get very dreamy looking, and I find a little too much for most of the types of content that I'm shooting. So that one stop is for a very specific use case, and I'm finding that the effect that this gives is really nice for myself, but again, it's all preference. So this may not be the look that you're going for, but figure I'd show you guys what I've been really into the last year for filtration in front of my lenses. This is the Small Rig multi-tool, number 3 on the list, and I'm telling you, just buy a few of them. They're $25 on Amazon, and you cannot go wrong with them. They have a 2.5 mil, 3 mil, and 4 mil Allen key sizes. It's got a flathead, a T25 Torx, and a Phillips screwdriver head, all in this tiny little body that I forget is in my pocket for the most part. You're gonna use this for the most part because of the flathead on it, because it's a rounded edge flathead, which is great because you won't stab yourself trying to rip off a tripod plate really quickly, because a lot of times we're in a rush to get things done. Rounded edges, oversized flathead, so it's really easy to get those plates off or anything that requires a flathead. And it's also airline safe. For whatever reason, airlines don't seem to like multi-tools like the Leatherman. I still have one of those, but I usually gravitate towards these guys because I know that it can go in my backpack, in my carry-on, and it's gonna be safe. Safe as in the airline's not gonna take it, and then I'm at 130 bucks. This is much cheaper. Have a few of these in your kit. Have one in each bag that you might be using on a regular basis. Again, small rig multi-tool. They're awesome. One of my absolute favorite pieces of gear is my Sackler Activate Flowtech 75 tripod. It is an absolute monster of a tripod and probably one of my top 3 favorite pieces of gear. It has traveled across Canada shooting for the BBC with me. It's been up to the subarctic up in Churchill, Manitoba. I don't know if that's subarctic, but I'm gonna call it that because it was cold as hell in October. We saw polar bears. That's Arctic. It's been in rainstorms and snowstorms. It folds down to almost a hi-hat. It's got 3 levers that you need to go all the way up and all the way down, and it's just a fantastic tripod. But it's also almost $5,000 and it's big and heavy, so traveling with it is cumbersome after a while, and for spending that much, I also recommend getting a hard case to travel with because the soft case just isn't enough to protect it. I did do that. I don't recommend it, but that's my favorite piece of gear ever. But on jobs where I can't bring that out and along with me, I picked something else up that kind of fills that gap, and I'm using it right now, and that is the Ulanzi travel tripod. But it's also carbon fiber. It's super tiny. It can pack down to about 1.5 feet, which means that it can also fit on the side of a backpack, which then means for traveling, it's a part of your carry-on or personal item, and it can fit inside most bags as well. I traveled to Colombia with this. It fit inside my luggage, and it added next to no weight. When you're traveling and you need to do a quick and dirty interview like I have to do a lot of times with the Toronto Argonauts when I'm traveling with the team and there's not a lot of extra space, or I don't have a crew with me, it's just myself and my producer, we got to do these interviews, and I'll look for the best possible lighting next to windows that might have some shears in that, and I'll actually use the DJI mic set to capture the audio. So I have a full production kit in this little tripod, a little mirrorless camera, and a wireless setup. So that's a fantastic little travel tripod from Ulanzi, and it's like $4.59 Canadian on Amazon. So check it out. It might be worthwhile if you need a multicam interview anyway. So I use the Sackler Flowtech. I also have an older Manfrotto fluid head tripod, and then I've got this guy for my C-cam if I'm doing a 3-person sit-down static interview. Okay, so the next piece of gear is actually a few pieces. If you are shooting on a mirrorless camera especially, you're gonna need an ND filter, and then we earlier talked about effects filters like the Black Pro Mist and my Glimmer Glass that I love. All of those things are needed to screw onto different sized lenses. Most lenses have different filter thread sizes, so we want to adapt all of those to be the same size. The best size to go with is the 82mm filter thread because that's the biggest of most photographic lenses that have a built-in thread system. So what I've done is I've brought out my set of Mamiya Secor C lenses. This is a medium format lens that I've adapted to my Sony cameras. They look absolutely gorgeous, and I recently went and bought a step-up ring for every single one of those lenses so that I can adapt my effects filters like the Black Pro Mist or the Glimmer Glass directly on, and I don't have to look for the individual stepping rings that I might need. I still have a collection right here in the corner, but I try my best to not dive in and grab those. The other thing that I'm going to recommend is that you look for that specific thread size. Say you have a smaller lens that's like a 49mm. Try and find the 49-282. You don't want to have to stack stepping rings because they get stuck, it gets messy, and most filter thread sizes you're going to be able to find from that actual thread size. So again, a 49, and you'll be able to find an adapter that'll go straight up to an 82 without having to stack multiple stepping rings. Gets messy, you won't enjoy yourself. Buy lens caps in an 82mm filter thread for every single one of your vintage lenses or your photographic lenses so that you can label them. You know exactly what size you're grabbing from your case. Makes it a lot easier for first ACs and any assistants that you might have, because then you've got them labeled. If you ask for a Helios 44-2 with a 1/8 Pro Mist, you can go to the Pro Mist bag. They can go and grab that lens knowing that hopefully the proper lens cap is on and you're good to go. best thing you can do if you're getting into filtration is just get those stepping rings, unless you're going the matte box route where matte boxes have stages in them. But I, a lot of times, don't run with a matte box on my gear. So stepping rings, they're awesome. Use them, buy all the thread sizes you need, and just have them live on your lenses, and you'll be much happier that way. As filmmakers, we need power. We have to charge our batteries. We have to charge our battery-powered lights. We have to charge our laptops when we're editing. All of those things need power, which means a lot of proprietary cables in the past. But I finally found something on, again, Amazon, the Satechi USB-C power bank. This is 165 watts per port. So you're able to fast charge all of your devices at a very quick pace. You can actually get a 6 bank of these as well, but this was just smaller, and it fits inside of a GoPro travel case I had from one of my old GoPros. One of those big things is repurposing as well. Repurpose your old gear into something else, and that worked well for this guy here. I have 4 USB-C cables in here as well as the wall plug. Everything that I need to charge all of my devices is in this small case that fits in my backpack. So I can charge my 16-inch MacBook Pro while I'm also charging 3 V-mount batteries or 3 tube lights from Aperture and Amaran. I can charge my Sony NPF-Z batteries. There's just a plethora of options that you can charge. I can charge my DJI mics if I need to. And all of that happens on a desk. I don't need cables everywhere. I used to have to bring multiple cube taps so I could plug in all the other wall mounts throughout my hotel rooms. And that's just a thing of the past now. So check out the Satechi USB-C charger. There's other brands that do it as well, but this one I've been super happy with for the last year. It's just made my life less complicated, which is the goal. We're staying on the topic of batteries and charging batteries because, well, it's the struggle of every creator, filmmaker, videographer, and content person. I try to use V-mounts as much as possible, but when I can't, I'm still using the NPZ batteries, which don't last as long and they're harder to charge because up until this point, I've been using multiple chargers to keep everything charged, which means more cables, more of a mess in hotel rooms when I'm traveling, and a bigger headache trying to make sure that you're swapping batteries as they charge so that you're ready for the next day. Well, my buddy Peter Lindgren came up with a fix for that because he was incredibly frustrated and he learned AutoCAD and he learned how to 3D print. And he partnered with Jupio on this product right here, which I'll let him give you a very quick rundown. It's just great.
There we go, Josh. Hope that this is gonna do. A little bit tired, but hey. So basically what inspired me to create the Tri-Charge was the charging banks or the charging base for the DJI drones. I thought it was so freaking stupid that there wasn't anything similar to regular mirrorless cameras, and I started to design the prototype for the Tri-Charge. I actually got the first one right here. Check this out. So this is the very first Tri-Charge, and you can see like I can barely fit my thumb in there. And there's the PL logo. Here's some nice design, aerodynamic holes. But when I designed this and made it actually work, I felt that, wow, this is actually something that I needed to have in my camera bag to be able to store my batteries, but also my memory cards. And that is where I reached out to a company that's called Jupio that helps me to produce this. And we designed the final version of the Tri-Charge, which is so fun to have been a part of and see it actually come alive. And I'm also very grateful that you, Josh, and those of you that are watching have actually purchased this product that I designed in my own garage. So thank you so much for purchasing it. I appreciate that.
Thanks for explaining that one, Peter. Quick disclaimer, I did buy this on my own. I had to buy it through B&H because no one in Canada seems to carry it just yet. It was worth every penny though. It was around $200 Canadian, which again, it's not a cheap thing, but it will save you if you use these batteries quite a bit. And I believe he's actually made this Tri-Charge for Canon as well as Panasonic and maybe even Fuji now. He's done variations of all of them so that every camera has this accessible to them. But I've actually ended up using the power out of this as well to charge my cell phone on a long flight when my phone had died. So it's such a great product. It holds SD cards, CFast A cards, and micro SD if you fly drones or do the GoPro thing. It's just such a great little product. So thanks again, Peter. Okay, we've made it to the end of the list, and I don't know if it's fair to say that we're saving the best for last. There's a lot of really useful things on this video that I think will really help you, but this might have been the most fun purchase. This is the PMI Gear Smoke Ninja. It's available on Amazon, and it came in handy last week on a shoot that I had with Bauer Hockey. They were shooting their summer 2025 apparel, and the setting was at a beautiful cottage in the Muskokas. If you're not from Ontario, the Muskokas are an absolutely stunning area with lakes everywhere, and people go up to vacation in the summers. And we had a beautiful location. One of the first things that you always like to do up at the cottage is have a nice hot cup of coffee. So we had our talent holding a mug, and we wanted that steam to really sell the effect. Now, it's impractical and dangerous to actually boil water constantly in case anyone spilled boiling water on their hands. So this was the next best thing. The PMI Gear Smoke Ninja has 3 settings. It's got your fog setting, your dry ice setting, and your steam setting. Now, in this situation, we used the steam setting, and we just kind of stuck this inside an empty mug, filled the mug up with steam, and then told the talent to kind of walk into frame, embrace the mug, and take a sip and really enjoy it. And it sold the effect so well. But this guy is also useful to haze up a small room. It will do the dry ice effect so that a thick smoke will it's like a silky smoke that hangs around a table, and you can put like a nice cocktail down there, like, I'm trying to think, an old fashioned. You have an old fashioned sitting on a table, haze up around, you've got your dry ice, and it looks beautiful that way. So it's a really useful tool, but it's very specific. So make sure you really need it before you go and add it to your shopping cart, because it is around $300 Canadian, and it does not come with a battery, and the battery is kind of tough to find. I did find it at a vape store, funnily enough, but it's the 18650 battery. It looks like a big AA. But because it's such a specific use case, and it is fairly expensive at $300, don't just buy it because you saw it in a YouTube video. Make sure you're either gonna be able to work it into a budget like I did, or make sure that you're gonna be making money off of it and you do product photography all the time and you think it will be useful to up your game. Don't fall into the trap of just buying random shit because someone like me showed you. But that is my list today. They have all been super useful in creating a healthy work environment.